Hello, welcome back to another episode. Today, on Judge Judyth, we're talking with two representatives. One from the Lone Ranger, Tonto, Fist Fight in Heaven, and the other from the Things They Carried. Come along. These two representatives will be making a claim for how their book is a timeless representation of a global issue.
I'm Ian Goodness. I'm representing The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien.
Go.
I'm Danny McDonald, and I will be representing The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven by Sherman Alexie.
Order. Both defendants, state your claim.
Tim O'Brien provides an essential and engaging argument and look into global issues in our world. He represents things like mental health and suicide prevention through things like writing aspects and style, structure, and even realism, just telling truth with lies.
It's believed that Sherman Alexie utilizes multiple aspects of realism, such as rambling subconscious, simple dialogue, and stories of everyday people to accurately portray the effects and struggles of alcoholism, not only on a local level within his reservation, but on a much broader spectrum as well.
I am not convinced yet. I want specific evidence. Things They Carried, please go.
What draws readers into books are the unique qualities that they offer and the compelling ideas they create. The most unique quality that Tim O'Brien incorporates in The Things We Carried was the non-chronological order of events, the structure of the book. This essentially made a book with no specific timeline. Throughout the book, he would describe a character or the actions that character took, but then in another chapter, he would then introduce the individual. This concept is most prevalent on page 149. Tim informs us about the events of Norman Bolker committing suicide after the war because he believed his life had no value. But then later on in the story, we see violent events that his troop was involved in. This is such a powerful tool because it develops a story with no closure. Without closure, readers are able to make connections toward the story. They're able to continue to ask questions. Tim provokes these questions in order to firmly establish the connection between suicide and violence, an issue that is felt even on a local level in our society. His abnormal use of structure provides better connections and can even make the story more interesting.
Fascinating, but I'm still not convinced. Sherman Alexie, state your claim.
Well, basketball and alcoholism are said to be two commonalities for everyone on the reservation in the chapter. The only traffic signal on the res doesn't flash red anymore, where Victor and Adrian have a casual conversation about the promising basketball hero Julius on the reservation. They linger over their past experiences with basketball and tie it into the present day, all while telling the story of everyday people who were in their lives at the time. A tool of realism. By telling the story of everyday basketball player Julius and having this dialogue, it's revealed to us how, yet again, alcoholism plays a big role in the cycle of the reservation's youth. Victor's basketball career was tarnished by his love for alcohol, and Adrian and him both point out the parallels between his childhood and Julius's childhood currently. Through this conversation, we see the development of this Julius character, and we begin to connect the dots. Julius goes from this promising basketball player who's determined to make it out into the world and out into college, to this drunkard who's fallen into the same cycle the rest of the reservation has fallen into. The story of Julius is just that of an everyday person, but Alexie uses it as a means to demonstrate the issue of alcoholism on youth in the reservation.
Understood. Those are both very interesting arguments. But is there any other parts of the story where global issues are addressed?
Well, Alexie's structure in the chapter, Jesus Christ's half-brother is alive and well on the Spokane Indian Reservation, portrays Victor's drunken thoughts insanely accurately, and in such a manner that we begin to understand these unstable thoughts. Rambling subconscious, a tool used to display realism, is used consistently throughout the chapter. This not only reveals the lasting impacts his parents' drinking had on him, but it also shows how alcoholism is a cycle. Victor's negligence is demonstrated with his own child that he's responsible for, and through his rambling, connections are made between his own childhood and the childhood of his son. We also see the effects of alcoholism has on Victor, his struggles with Alcoholics Anonymous, staying sober, and his attempts to curb his cravings. Utilizing a rambling subconscious really invites us into the mind of Victor, where we see his sometimes poor attempts to rationalize his own bad decisions, which alone gives us a first-hand perspective of what it's like dealing with alcoholism. Victor's father...
Listen, these are all good points, but I'm going to need to hear some more.
Tim O'Brien also was able to incorporate the absence of morality throughout the story. A normal individual would believe that violent events and death would be portrayed as negative occurrences and usually reacted to with sympathy. But Tim O'Brien leaves all forms of morality out of his book. On page 127, Tim references his first kill that he had during war. People were not worried about the individual's death. In fact, one of the troop members, Kiowa, told him that it was a good kill. No morals emerge during war, and that is something that can lead to serious problems once someone returns. PTSD is a common mental problem that troops face. And Tim's writing style conveys why that is so normal. People are not themselves during war, and most lack morality, but they reflect on what they have done after their experience. By disregarding the difference between right and wrong, Tim displays what troops actually experience, which helps us understand why an individual could develop something like PTSD. And I think that's why so many veterans enjoyed the book, is because he was able to show how no morals can lead to such a point.
Guys, I need some more. This still isn't making much sense.
The one constant throughout the book was the use of realism. Tim was able to tell the truth with lies in such a way to provoke the real ideas, reactions, and thoughts during war, but the events were not at all truthful. My set of 40 lines perfectly portrays this concept. Tim states between 74 and 75, we crossed that river and marched west into the mountains. On the third day, Kurt Lemon stepped on a booby trap 105 round. He was playing catch with Rat Kiley, laughing, and then he was dead. The trees were thick. It took nearly an hour to cut LZ from the dust off. Later, higher in the mountains, we came across a baby VC, water buffalo. What it was doing there, I don't know. No farms or patties, but we chased it down and got a rope around it and led it along the deserted village we were set up for at night. After supper, Rat Kiley went over and stroked its nose. He opened up a can of sea rations, pork, and beans, but the baby buffalo was not interested. Rat shrugged. He stepped back and shot it through the right front knee. Okay, this action from Rat Kiley did not at all occur, but the ideas behind it were truthful. The idea that one minute something could be fine, but the next it could all be over. Even Rat's reaction toward the buffalo was false, but it depicts how someone could reach the point of suicide or PTSD. Someone's mind would clearly be impacted if someone around them were lost at any moment.
Yes. You guys have almost got me, but you need to wrap it up. Let's go.
The structuring of the chapter Education does not pinpoint alcoholism as the focus of the story. The chapter is broken up by grade level, and Victor expresses the important events that happened in his life during that grade. We see everything from blatant racism to Victor's girlfriends, but hints of alcoholism are sprinkled in his grade summaries. The earliest it shows up in the chapter is in his 4th grade year. His focus on that point in time is about how he was told he was smart enough to be a doctor. He still mentions how his father drank a gallon of vodka that year. That seemingly out of the blue note reveals us the early exposure Victor had to alcohol and begins to tell the story on his parents and how his parents' drinking affected his upbringing. He brings up his parents' drinking in relation to the white girls throwing up in the bathroom after a party. He tells how it's an all too familiar event and that he's used to it. This child is used to the effects of drinking due to his parents' drinking. A very real consequence of alcoholism, yet again demonstrated by Alexi's use of subtle hints in the structuring of his chapters.
Dang it, you guys did it. Your books do provide a timeless example of global issues. You defended them well.
I'm not gonna lie, it was a little difficult getting into the story. It started off slow and it took a while to adjust to the strange and different formatting that the story had. Overall though, I feel like the short stories within this book, The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven, were really impactful and each carried their own weight and really truly demonstrated the effects that Alexi was trying to portray with alcoholism, Indian stereotypes, and everything else that was in that book. And I do think that the Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven is a good book.
I think the story was great, even though it was kind of hard to follow. The different perspectives from people in the story gave insight into the many problems faced by the people within those conflicts. The varying perspectives also make for varying stories that give different insights into the major issues of the soldier's mental state after conflict.
I think that The Things We Carried was such an amazing book because of how unique it was. I mean, the one thing that really tied me into the book was the use of structure and how abnormal it was. It was so unique, and I think it was just an amazing book.
During the course of this unit, we learned about realism, truth told with lies, and global issues. Both texts display these traits through the author's storytelling and meanings behind the stories they tell. I recommend reading these texts because of how well they tie into the 11th grade curriculum and because of the persuasions that the defendants have given me. Case dismissed.